Hey, Dr. Robertson, what are we
Hey,
talking
Dr.
about
Crosby, how
today?
are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I was just wondering the other day, how can I read a menu that isn't written?
Is that like one of those philosophy questions? What's the sound of one hand clapping, or does a tree make a sound when it falls in the forest if no one's there to hear it?
Just saying, it does sound very Confucius. So,
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about these unwritten menus here.
mm,
So what I'm talking about in an unwritten menu is there are all sorts of situations where people are eating where they're not sitting down and ordering from like a fold out menu, where certain things are assumed or things are made available to them. They still need to know information about the food. The way we get it to them is a little different. So think about a
mm,
buffet. Walk into
yeah,
you walk into the buffet, you're not given a fold out menu that says what's going to be on the buffet.
no. At most, there might be a sign saying what the special item on the buffet
Yeah,
might
what
be.
the protein is going to be,
Yeah,
that might. So when we go up to the buffet, we have to provide information. So,
mm,
this can be nutritional information. We put the names of items on there, and sometimes we attach it like at the down by the bottom of the dish, or sometimes it's up on the sneeze guard or somewhere. But we have to have something up there present so people know what they're getting.
mm. Makes sense. I
Yeah,
mean, nobody likes the mystery meat surprise that we used to get in grade school.
and this is one of those kind of rules. If you have a fancy restaurant, you tend to have a tiny little sign somewhere, like just a little tiny. Maybe it's carved on the handle of the
The
ladle.
ladle.
Whereas if you're in like a smaller, more casual restaurant, maybe it's just a gigantic handwritten chalk sign placed above it. You know,
Yeah. But again, it just depends on the market. In upscale, it says here, usually just the dish's name.
yeah. So I'm going to put chicken Florentine, steak au poivre, tuna Oscar, those
Mm.
things on there because in an upscale restaurant, people are going to know what those mean.
Yeah, unless you're like me and you just happen to accidentally stumble into an upscale restaurant.
Yeah. So other things about a buffet, your servers need to be able to answer questions. Excuse me, can you tell me if there are peanuts in this dish? You know,
Well, yeah, and it's important because there's such a variety of dishes too that they're able to access any information and answer the questions in a timely manner.
the servers are going to have to be present to keep the buffet clean because people are nasty.
People are pretty horrible, aren't
Yeah.
they?
They'll be dropping food. They'll just be making a mess, and the visually this is a sales tool. You want it to look nice. We work real hard to make sure our dishes look nice. And somebody, you're going to get a 6-year-old that's going to come in there with a spoon and just stir everything around. And you got to
Yeah.
have someone there, a server, to keep everything neat and kind of look.
I'm kind of curious about how buffets are handling this whole situation because talk about not keeping any kind of distance or guidelines. If you have a place like any generic buffet place,
Well,
how do you maintain in this environment?
the ones I've seen that are actually you go and you order what you want and they
They
plate it.
plate it up,
Yeah,
extra mashed potatoes light on the protein. I
yeah.
get you.
Well, I think maybe I'll have a vegetable. Put some mac and cheese on there.
Yeah. Hey, it counts. It
Yeah.
counts.
And you want to have a server out there who's replacing the platters and dishes and
Yeah.
keeping it fucking clean. So, how do we sell on a buffet? If we have a menu, I can use descriptive terms. I can do all
Hmm.
sorts of things to try and motivate you. But on a buffet, I don't have those tools. So we do all sorts of things. Like one, we make the food attractive and colorful. We put garnishes on there to make it look better.
Yeah. Lighting, little
Right.
little things that just kind of help make it look a little bit better. That's where the replacing and the people constantly putting
And
things
generally,
back into order.
your lighting around food, you want to be red or pink tinted. You want
Hmm.
to avoid blue or green tint because it
Yeah.
just red makes things look better, blue makes things look worse. You want to have like a lot of variation in the dish as far as textures and colors and variety in the dish. You want to have a lot of variation across the buffet. So, not everything, you're not just going to have like casserole, 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 casserole. You're going to have, oh, here's a leafy green. Here's a crunchy item. Here's, something that's brown. Here's something that's green. You're going to have variety in there.
Yeah, you want to be able to stimulate their palates a little bit.
Now, on buffet, one of the things that's important to consider is you want to put the dishes out there. They're going to hold up well. Yeah. Some dishes don't hold up on a buffet. They look bad. They get wilted. They don't hold up. You're probably not going to put sauteed spinach in a buffet because it's going to turn brown. It's going to get slimy looking. It's not going to last very long.
Yeah, it barely looks good fresh. So, yeah. I mean.
So if you can, what the ideal situation is only put out what's going to be served quickly and regularly replenish it. You don't, from a certain point of view, it's great. Hey, here's this buffet. I'm going to set it up and come back in 3 hours and check on it. Well, that saves you labor, but I can guarantee you that buffet is going to look like garbage.
Oh, it's going to be a complete show when it's done. Yeah.
Yeah. Sanitation, going back to your question earlier, how now things are kind of elevated, but these are the basic rules for sanitation on a buffet. Yeah. We don't combine old food and new. So I don't bring out, a new thing of baked beans and dump it in the existing dish of baked beans. It's like, take the old one out, put the new one in. Try and avoid combining them as much as possible. You want to keep your hot food hot, your cold food cold, so that they stay in the appropriate temperature zones.
Who knew, right? Yeah.
It's almost like there's a class that covers this.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Speaking of, if you want to take that class, it's Food Sanitation with Dr. Robbie Robertson.
Culinary 1111.
Yeah.
And clean all spills quickly. So again, you need someone who's attending to the buffet to keep it clean and looking good.
Yeah. Well, and the spills is both the sanitation and just a general appearance thing. Nobody wants to walk up and there's food all over the ladle handle and everything else. It's not appealing.
Yeah. When we do a buffet, we do a lot to garnish it, to make it look good once it starts being used. So the platters, the dishes that are actually going out there, we garnish those. And whatever you use for those garnish needs to be edible. Actually, anything that goes out on a buffet should be edible. But those things that are being used, the tomato roses or the kale or whatever you're doing to garnish it.
Is kale actually edible? I mean, really?
I've heard some people.
But yeah, it's there to distract and just kind of make it look pretty. So and some people love that stuff. So whatever they want.
Table garnishes are things like centerpieces that we do. We'll have fruit displays or bread displays and things like that. In classical cooking, this was a more common thing where we do like ice sculptures or butter sculptures or tallow sculptures. We don't do those sorts of things so much anymore. But the whole idea is to make the whole table, the whole buffet look attractive.
Yeah.
So some things about equipment for your buffet to keep it looking interesting, looking nice. If you have silver pieces, that looks high end. We do a lot of mirrors and decorative platters. Mirrors are inexpensive to use, and you can get some very nice appearance with them, and they're easy to clean. Tablecloths, again, basically using a tablecloth makes the table look nicer. But we can also use those tablecloths to, like the next thing we're talking about, risers and tiered trays. When we put the food out, we put it out at different heights. One, it's easier to serve and it makes it look nicer. But we've got this milk crate I put out there to raise the food up, wrap it in a tablecloth that looks nice.
Yeah, it's much easier than most people would assume. And some of this stuff, I mean, you can accent with colored napkins. So you have that milk crate, it's wrapped in a tablecloth, and you put a nice colored napkin underneath the tray or whatever, and it just gives a little visual pop.
And then also when we're putting buffets out, different shaped tables, round tables for stations, serpentine tables create visual interest, straight tables, a combination of things out there to put out. Other things that buffets have, things like carving stations. So at your carving station, you'll probably want to have signage about what's being carved and have it separate because the flow of traffic is going to be different. If you have it in line in a buffet, it should probably be the last item. So that because
Well, and that's for several reasons, right?
yeah, it's probably going to be expensive.
So you're going to want people to really use it least. You want them to fill up their plates before they get there. So it's like, well, just a little bit.
Yeah, and you can have things that are cooked to order on a buffet also. Like commonly we'll see at brunch buffets, we'll have someone cooking omelets or waffles.
Mm.
So different types of buffets, the all-you-can-eat, where you go up there and you belly up to the food trough and help yourself. Cafeteria style, where someone is serving you.
Yeah, pretty much you go through and you can see that at IKEA, if you've ever been there, in their cafeteria, where you ask for certain things and you pay for whatever you picked out.
So when you're, I used to be a caterer. I love catering. And one of the questions, first question is how many people am I serving? Because that's going to dictate how you plan to do it. And so kind of rule of thumb here, people don't want, I could feed 1,000 people out of a single buffet line, but the people at the end of that line are going to eat 6 hours after the people at the beginning. So rule of thumb for a meal period, a single service line can serve about 50 people. Now, it's funny, at the beginning of this school year, Dr. Mosley and I actually went to a faculty luncheon, and so there were like 140 of us. They had a single buffet line. And he and I are having this discussion about, well, obviously they didn't read the menu planning book because they would have known that they need to have a double-sided buffet here to move people through faster with this many people.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure somebody overheard us and they finally did move the buffet a little bit over and create 2 sides. But
yeah. So we can have multiple identical buffets for more people. A simple way to do it is make the buffet available on both sides where people can walk down both sides. You do that, it's a little bit harder to replenish and keep looking nice, but you can serve twice as many people.
Yeah. The little cues, like sometimes you go someplace and you're not quite sure which is the start and which is the end. But if you have plates only at one side, there's only one side to start. But if you have plates at both sides, you're going to end up with people like cross streaming, right? And that's not good either.
Yeah, you can manage people just, like with things like that that will dictate where the direction they should flow. So typically we're going to put plates on the left and people will follow along on one side. But I can have people follow along on both sides of the buffet like is illustrated here. And that is going to move through twice as fast. So they're over here on the left-hand side is where the plates are. They're going to grab their plates. They're going to walk through the line on either side. Mm-hmm. The 4-line buffet is I can put the plates in the middle of the table and have 2 buffet lines. So you walk into the middle and then you spread out to either end. And those 2 buffets will be identical on each side, and you can feed a lot more people a lot faster.
Yeah.
Important things for a buffet, it should be easy for guests and for staff to access. It should be easy for the guests to get to and get out, especially if they just want to get 1 or 2 items. And it should be easy for the staff so that they can refill it.
Yeah, and as it says here, if you are doing a single line, obviously the other side, you don't want guests to have access to it. So that way the servers are able to sit there and replenish things and be at the disposal.
Yep. Let's see.
So multiple buffets. So you're not going to have just everything at that one table, are you?
No, you'll have lots of especially you can have like action stations, mm-hmm. or you can have multiple different types of items. Brunch is a common example of this. You'll have over here, we'll have the buffet. Well, over here we have eggs cooked to order. Well, over here we have waffles.
Yeah, this is our hot table. This is our cold stuff. This is waffles, eggs, prime rib.
Or I'm going to go over here and I'm going to this is the sandwich station. And over here, this is the salad bar area. You don't have to move through everything. You can kind of move from area to area and get what you want. It's also useful in that type of situation to have an area where people can bypass, especially if I have like grab and go. Like I have a section of pre-made sandwiches. I shouldn't have, that guest shouldn't have to go through all the line waiting for everybody to get all their other items. If they're just buying, a pre-made sandwich or something, they should be able to go directly to the cashier.
And this is something that's very common in places that have like bigger, like dining halls. Purdue, every dining hall had a grab and go area for the students as well, because they had so many going through each hour.
Yeah. So how do we control the cost? People going through the buffet, they can get whatever they want, all you can eat.
Huge ladles on cheap stuff.
Yeah. So here's basically what we do. One, we put it in order of courses. The very first thing on there, I'm going to put the bread and the salad. Bread is cheap. Salad is cheap. Load your plate up.
Yep.
Have all the salad you want. And if I
Donuts.
can, I'm going to have like 20 feet of salad and 18 different types of bread out there. And, so you're going to spend your time there getting, oh, wow, they have pumpkin bread and they have cornbread. Well, I'm going to get some of both. Take it up so you don't have any room at the end for your roast beef.
Well, that's the hope, right? Let's see here. Entrees.
And then if I have, like, say, multiple proteins, I'm going to start with the cheapest one and end with the most expensive one. So I'm going to have the chicken wings first. And I'm going to have the crab legs last.
Yeah. And obviously desserts are in a separate area. Hopefully they get full.
Yeah. Let's see, things for items that
Okay, so this is an important thing. So if you have an a la carte menu and a buffet menu, you don't put the thing on the buffet that is your bread and butter on the a la carte menu, right? So if you have something that is a profit driver for you on the a la carte, probably not going to be on the buffet.
So imagine, like, you go to if you've ever been to B&J's up in Darien, you go in there and get fried shrimp. Now, you get a fried shrimp platter, or you can go through the buffet and get they have fried shrimp on the buffet, but you pay more for the buffet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So if you have it on the buffet, you're going to want to charge more for that buffet than what it costs a la carte. Carving station. Obviously, you're going to want to have somebody sitting there carving for you. That for a couple of reasons. One, yeah, it's portion control, but the average person doesn't know a typical portion size either.
No.
So, or they might end up carving it in a way that's just going to completely mangle the product, which then becomes less appetizing looking.
Although, talking about mangling products, do you want to know how I was taught how to carve turkey?
How?
I was working at Sea Island. They have a Thanksgiving buffet, and I literally get told by the chef, all right, here's the knife. Go out front. You're carving turkey. 800 people coming through the buffet line. And it's like, I've never done this before. And he's like, you'll figure it out.
You will be a pro by the end of the day.
And I hacked some turkeys to death when I started.
I'm sure a few people probably mentioned that too.
Yeah, but by the end, I got pretty good at it. Don't put expensive items on your buffet, on your all-you-can-eat buffet. If you do, make sure you cost it accordingly. If you have a buffet with all-you-can-eat crab legs on it, which is a common thing to do, that buffet better be pricey.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll notice that they take a little bit longer to replenish those items.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it.
Yeah. So what about a cafeteria? We're going through a cafeteria. We can do some, the goal here is we're going to try and encourage the guests to purchase more things. So we're going to have our appetizer next to our dessert. We're going to have all these things laid out and decorated so they look nice, trying to get people to pull as many things as possible. Yeah. We have the beverages and the dessert. at the end of the line, again, trying to encourage people to grab them. We're going to have add-ons near the register, so people is like, oh, I'll add this brownie right here, this cookie right here. That looks good. Take back to the table with.
Yeah, the VAs actually figured this out pretty well. They got all sorts of stuff hidden along the way. If anybody's ever been.
Catering. Oh, I love catering. But basically, when you're designing your menu and you want to make money off of it, there are a lot of things to consider. One, you are probably giving your price months in advance of when you're going to prepare it. So if I say, hey, yeah, this buffet, I'm going to charge you $18 a person for it, you need to consider what happens if prices change.
Like, I don't know, currently with the price of certain meats going up in certain areas.
Right. Inclusive pricing. What does the price include? Does that include transportation? Does that include display? Does that include plates? Or is plate rental separate? Is tablecloth rental separate? All these things need to be considered.
And as an operator, to have everything clearly laid out so that there's no miscommunication, because they don't care. They're going to blame you for their mistakes. So
I've got you're having an event, you're having a wedding or something, and people are coming in to eat there. So one of the things this caterer needs to do is make enough food for everyone. Okay, so how do we assure that we have enough food for everyone? Well, we make extra. But every bit extra that I make is profit that's lost.
Yeah.
So we're trying to walk this line between providing the service for everyone that's going to be there and making as much money as possible. So we don't want to produce too much. We want to make enough to feed everyone. So the way we do this, one tool we have is we will use what's called a guarantee. Mm-hmm. So the guarantee, and there are a couple different types of guarantees, is we could have like a minimum guarantee where this is what the client's going to pay for. And then as a caterer, I'm going to build in a fudge factor. So if you tell me you have 100 people coming to your wedding, I'm probably going to make food for 108. Someone's going to show up. They couldn't get a babysitter, or your cousin, his girlfriend said, if you don't take me to the wedding, we're breaking up. So suddenly you get an uninvited cousin, girlfriend there, things like that. And so you build in this little bit of fudge factor, and you account for that in your pricing. And if more people come, like, you'll say, okay, we're doing this, the minimum's 100, I'll have food for 108, and 110 show up. If I prepare food for them, you're getting charged for those extra people. Or we can do what's called an over, under, or an approximate guarantee. And that is that I will charge you for this number of people plus or minus 5%. I'm going to charge you for that amount. If you go over, like if you get more than 5, if I told you 100, you get 106, that 106th person, sorry, no food.
Yeah.
And the last one, and this is one that I have never used before, which is an exact guarantee, which is you're going to pay for 100 people, whether they show up or not. And also, if 120 show up, I'm not feeding them. And so this isn't.
No.
I mean, I can imagine there are scenarios where you can use it. This is not one that, in the type of catering I've ever done, that's really been on the table, because even with things like weddings and birthday parties, there are things, people will have last minute things come up and they don't show up. So usually people want more flexibility. Another type of unwritten menu specials. So we could see these things show up on like a daily menu or on a chalkboard or a menu insert, like the little thing that's paper clipped inside the front of your menu. Yeah. Why do we put them there? Well, because it sells food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, why does the server come around and say, hey, our special today is this? Well, because it sells more food.
Yeah. And usually that item's something that we need to sell. So what else we got? The presentation outside the menu.
So yeah, some like if you have an item on the menu,
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a special, like, oh yeah, tonight we have Kobe beef and it's $75 for a tomahawk chop. You know, put that in if your normal pricing is $35, but the special 75. Let them know up front. Some people will go for it, but some people are going to be pretty irritated when they order that tomahawk chop and it comes and get the bill and the two of them it's $190.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you're having it, you're not doing market pricing because you're printing it off that day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have a guest who comes in and requests something that's not on the menu, check with the kitchen before confirming with the guest that it can be done.
Yeah, and usually that's something if you are able and you have things, broken off or broken down where you can add and whatever subtract things, it's not that hard to
but not everything can be accommodated, so you just want to check.
Yeah.
Servers. Your server should be a salesman.
Yeah.
Your server can influence your guest orders. A good server sells more. A good server is say, hey, we have this great special tonight, you should try it. Or when they ask, what's your favorite? Well, I really like this dish and it pairs great with this glass of wine.
Well, and that's part of having the servers try everything that's on the menu, because if they don't know what it actually tastes like, how can they sell it?
Yeah, and that way they can give personal recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
You want them, you help them come up with vivid descriptions of what things taste like. Just saying, yeah, it's good, that's not really going to sell something. Whereas if you tell someone it's really luxurious, it's velvety in your mouth, things like that. Yeah. Again, they need to tell the truth. They're bound by the truth and menu guidelines, and they personalize their presentation to the guests. So this is one of those things that I always love, working in the restaurants, is you can have two servers that are entirely different. Some guests are going to like that server that comes in and says, hello, my name is Robbie. I'll be your server today. Our specials are, and goes through and recites it. And that's, that's what they want. They don't want, they want this kind of professional interaction. Other people are going to like the server that comes up and says, hey, honey, how y'all doing? And that's going to be the type of service that they like.
Yeah.
And a good server can recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
Upselling.
Yes.
Basically, a server should be trained to upsell, to say, when someone orders a baked potato, to go with their steak, would you like sour cream and bacon on that?
Yeah.
If it's an extra 25 cents, where encourage people to step up.
Oh, what would go great with that steak?
This kind of ties into suggestive selling. Again, getting guests to buy more, to encourage them to make additional purchases.
Yeah. Should I go ahead and bring you out some apps?
Yeah, good. Yeah, exactly.
All
right.
I never say no to apps. I don't know. I'm weird.
Apps and desserts.
Yes, apps and desserts. Well, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you on the next one.
All right.